Welcome back, y'all. Instead of doing a movie or a game review, I wanted to try something different, so I started a new video series called Miserable Pukes of Entertainment. These videos will focus on the kind of characters that are just downright insufferable or framed to be as good guys but are just actually bad guys. For example, the Lori Grimes, the Grandpa Joes, the Velmas, the Cailloux, the Peppa Pig. Why aren't you bacon? But today's focus is on JD from Scrubs.
Hello!
I hate this sumbitch with a passion. He's insufferably immature, narcissistic, and is always in constant need for attention. Don't get me wrong, I understand this isn't an original idea. I see this topic pop up on Twitter all the time. But a few days ago, amidst all my scrolling, I came across one of those posts. I just couldn't help myself. I unloaded on this thing, releasing my outright hatred for JD. Maybe it was the mood I was in, or it might have had something to do with me binging the entire series last week. I have no idea, but I was typing up a storm until I reached my character cap on the post. Instead of posting a giant essay, why not just do a video?
That would be the logical conclusion. It's not like you have anything better to do with your time.
Oh, piss off, Nigel.
I don't think that would be wise, considering I'm the face of the channel and all.
Keep it up or I'll delete that text-to-speech program.
You wouldn't dare.
I would, dear, but I think I can do better than that.
What could you possibly, What did you do to my voice?
I changed the voice character. Don't you like it?
Change it back this instant.
Yeah, no. This is too funny. I'm going to keep it the way it is.
You can't leave it like this. I sound like a lazy TikTok view farm.
Don't get your panties in a bunch. I'll change it later.
You better or I'm going to beat the living tar out of you. But why do you despise JD so much?
Despise really isn't the word I associate with John Michael Dorian. Oh no, I have an undeniable hatred for this chinless twit that surprisingly doesn't ruin Scrubs for me. Even though JD is technically the protagonist of the show, the writing and the cast around JD makes up for the shortcoming that is John Dorian. If you haven't watched the show, Scrubs boils down to following JD and the staff of Sacred Heart, a teaching hospice that go from patient to patient. The cast roll call includes the pissant himself, his best friend, Turk, who's an aspiring surgeon, Turk's better half, Carla Espinoza, the head nurse, Elliot Reed, Dorian's on-again, off-again love interest, JD's superior in obsession, Dr. Cox, and the chief of medicine, Bob Kelso, ending with a character that I believe is the audience self-insert, the janitor. I believe this guy is a self-insert for the audience because this dude's whole reason for existing in the show is to punish JD like the misbehaved child that he is.
You're stupid.
That's it?
Give it time. It'll eat at you.
Am I stupid?
Yeah, a little bit.
Damn him.
Don't get me wrong, he doesn't just go after JD. He goes after everybody, but most of the time it's JD, and JD deserves it.
Huh. That's odd.
What the hell just happened?
I moved your ladder.
Now, as for the hospital itself, Sacred Heart, it actually feels like another character in a show. Instead of like one of those stylized sets that they filmed for like Grey's Anatomy and all that shit, this was an actual hospital in California. They filmed it. And as the show progresses, you actually see where they've had to patch it back up because this hospital was abandoned for a while. They bought it for cheap and even used half of it for the cast, equipment, and all that kind of stuff. The show begins with JD starting his internship at Sacred Heart, progressing into his residency, becoming an attending, and then finally becoming chief of residency. The show ending when JD leaves Sacred Heart. Of course, I'm not including Season 9. Season 9 does not exist in my opinion, and there's a good reason why. That season was a way for Disney to try to milk Scrubs for another season by introducing new characters and bringing some of the older cast back to pass the torch on. It was a redundant decision, of course, because Season 8 already pulled that off with the new team of interns that JD and the rest of the cast were training. Why not just bring them back and just continue the story on? I don't care. Piss poor decisions aside, Scrubs was a really good show, season 1 through 8. It was a comedy first with drama elements sprinkled in. With some good writing, not perfect, the show did fall on its face a couple of times, but where it shined was in its long game. Characters like Bob Kelso seeming like a greedy asshole, constantly badgering staff to check for insurance and kick certain patients out to the curb if they're not covered. But as the show drags on, you learn that Bob had to make some decisions to keep the doors open. But he wasn't stupid. He knew how the staff found ways around the system to do their jobs.
What the hell, people? I just saw Maggie Kent in the park. Why didn't we treat her?
She has no insurance.
Well, why didn't we do what we always do? Why didn't you fix it while I turned my back and pretend not to notice?
and ultimately passing on the job to his would-be arch-enemy, Dr. Perry Cox. All the way through the show, these two were butting heads with each other, but as the years go on, Kelso starts making moves to set Perry up for his job, easing him into the hellscape and advising him as it goes along. Turk and Carla get engaged, then married, and then finally Turk becomes chief of surgeon at the end of the series. With Elliot graduating from being a neurotic closet nymphomaniac to a open neurotic nymphomaniac, but with a private practice. Scrubs has the regular stuff you expect from shows like this. Everybody in the show grows and changes as they move on. But then you have this asshole. JD by far is the biggest piece of shit in the whole damn show. From a quick glance, you would think he comes off as a lovable goof, right? He just needs a finger wagging every once in a while. But you'd be fooled. JD from the word go does nothing but whine and complain and tell these unfunny jokes that make my ears want to bleed. JD's arrogant narcissism and need for gratification does push him to involve himself in the lives of patients to a degree of obsession. He actually breaks into a man's home to get a thank you for treating him. That's your job, asshole. If he doesn't thank you, whoop-de-doo. You got paid at the end of the day. Move on. But no. JD takes it to the umpth degree and actually commits burglary to get a thank you. All the while, he has a patient back at the hospital that could use his help dying at the hands of inexperienced interns who didn't know what to do. You think this would happen early on in JD's career when he's still an intern, but no, it happens when he's a resident at a time when he should know better. The show gives him a slap on the wrist and a small speech from Cox, but this dude should have been kicked to the curb, but yet the show must go on. However, I will admit, when JD is on the ball, he does do some good. Like the episode My Last Words. The episode takes place with JD and Turk spending the evening with the man on his deathbed, exchanging stories and even a beer or two, until the man slips away in his sleep. This is by far my favorite episode in the series. And I will admit, JD spending heartfelt moments with his patients like this is one of the show's strong points. And the comedy can be funny. I'm not saying JD isn't good at his job. By far the opposite. The experience I've seen in hospitals, doctors don't really sit down and talk to you about your problems. They'll spend as little time as possible. They'll chuck pills at you and let a nurse give you a play-by-play of what's going to happen. JD does break that mold and try to connect with his patients, something I applaud, but then there are times where he royally fucks up. The episode TCW, for example, aka Tasty Coma Wife, where JD starts to sniff around the wife of a man in a coma. All throughout this episode, JD spends his entire time bitching and moaning about being alone. His answer? To start chatting up this lady. He says it's just a friend thing. He just wants somebody to talk to. But every person in that hospital knows exactly what he's angling for. By the end of the episode, he admits this is scummy and backs down. But that's only after he makes a complete ass of himself, yelling at those closest to him who are trying to ward him off from this. And what's bad is the show believes this is a mic drop. JD spends 5 minutes calling everybody out for their supposed hypocrisy, digging at problems and shit they're going through at that time while he storms out like a petulant child. If this moron had the sense to realize his friends were taking the time out of their day, setting their problems aside to help him out with his, I probably wouldn't hate him as much. It's the conversation he needed, not the one he wanted. And what really annoys me is a few episodes later, after all is said and done, this man does exactly what he wasn't supposed to do when the husband kicks the bucket and hooks up with the wife in the closet at the fucking funeral parlor.
You're joking, really?
No, Nigel, I am not joking.
Oh.
Yeah, the dude's not even cold yet, and these two are playing hide the pickle in the closet next to the corpse. You can argue that she's just as much at fault, but damn, this dude was angling for this. He starts guilt tripping her afterwards, but you still showed up, you asshole. You know what you were looking for. And what's bad is that the next episode he's dating her and the relationship goes up in smoke like everybody said it would. But this man knows everything. Oh God, what an idiot. In fact, most of his relationships burn like the Hindenburg. He torments one girl to tears because she doesn't laugh at jokes. Instead, she says, "That's so funny." A little annoying, yes, but this is JD's laugh. If I had to pick between these two, I would gladly listen to this girl say,
That's so funny. Look how big that pancake is. That's so funny. That's so funny.
over JD imitating a jackass. I get what they were angling for. Everybody has their issues, but when you're in a relationship, you really need to focus on the positives rather than negatives, because everybody has their fair share of negatives. But the problem is that In a previous episode, this was handled a hell of a lot better involving Carla and Turk. The episode revolves around Carla being obsessed with Turk's mole and how she wants it removed. It seems like a little thing, but it's something that she's going to have to deal with for the rest of her life since they're married. And the episode actually has a really good speech from Bob Kelso that just rounds it out and makes it a hell of a lot more acceptable since Turk and Carla are married and these two are just dating. They haven't been dating long, a couple of weeks. So JD's annoyance is completely unfounded. Hell, this man got dumped by Tara Reid of all people. Not once, but twice. Both times because she caught on he was only dating her because Elliot wasn't available. Like she should, this woman kicked this man to the curb so quick, she didn't even do it in person the first time. She sent her sister to kick his ass out.
Hey, guys. Oh, JD, Danny's breaking up with you. Ah, darn. See ya.
What?
And not to mention all the shit he does to Elliot over the years. The worst thing this man did was spend an entire season chasing this girl because she was dating somebody else. JD, being the weasel that he is, spends every waking moment trying to convince Elliot to drop her stable relationship for JD. Does she do it? Well, of course. End of season 3 comes and Elliot has dropped her current boyfriend for JD and JD got what he wanted, right? Right?
Oh my God, I don't want her!
So what does he do? He dumps Elliot at his best friend's wedding festivities.
Okay, Maisie.
I don't love you.
At the beginning I said drama was sprinkled in, but toward the middle of the series, it's flooded with drama. It's almost insufferable. Somebody should turn a hose on these assholes. This dude does find a woman, almost as big a dirtbag as he is, in the form of Kim, his baby mama. Are we sure this isn't Jerry Springer? You would think so, because he only dates her once, gets her knocked up because he's too stupid to carry a condom. She panics, moves away, fakes a miscarriage because she thought JD would be a shit dad. Well, he's a shit person, so it kind of translates. 8 months later, JD bumps into Kim, who has a rather large baby bump, and is rightfully furious. I will admit, JD has a right to be angry at Kim over lying about the miscarriage. I would be too. A lot of people would be angry in this situation. But what isn't justified is JD lets Kim give up her job and move in with him under the guise that they're going to be a family. That he likes her, she likes him, and they actually want to raise this kid together. That's not the case. JD's only doing this because he wants to be a dad, but when Kim's giving birth to his kid, he outright admits he has no emotional connection to her whatsoever.
I do! He just broke up with me!
What?
No, technically I didn't break up with her. I just told her I didn't love her.
Yikes, man. Oh, what an asshole. To be frank, this dude really didn't show any emotional connection to any of his dates other than Elliot, but that's because she is his friend. The dude's really cold to all of his dates. Hell, one of his dates he just calls gift shop girl because she's a woman that works at the gift shop. He never learns her name. He just keeps calling her gift shop girl from beginning to end. If he wasn't such a horn dog for the opposite sex, I would swear he dances his beat to another drum. But to be honest, the dude is just straight up a misogynist. And I don't mean it in Twitter current year whatever. I mean this in the truest sense of the word. This dude is a straight up sexist. The very episode that he meets Kim, he learns that Kim has been working at the hospital this entire time and he's just never seen her. Why didn't he see her before? The answer? JD doesn't see married women. He flat out subconsciously ignores their existence. Kim up to that point was wearing her wedding ring, but was divorced. The only reason JD noticed her was because he was forced to interact with her. That's pretty bad. If there's no way he can bump uglies with a woman because she's married or for any other reason, JD does not acknowledge their existence. Not even on a professional level or as a possible friendship. He just ignores them. And this guy's supposed to be the protagonist. And what's bad is Todd exists in the show. Todd is more or less the Quagmire of the show. He will literally doink anything with a heartbeat.
You go. Nothing wrong with those. Nothing wrong with that either. Or that. Or that.
What the hell are you?
I'm the Todd.
Now, he's done some pretty creepy stuff, but earlier in the series, he's subjected to the ring stick just like JD. But in Todd's case, if a woman is married, he takes her off of his radar. He stops the sex jokes, the flirting, all of it. But he doesn't ignore her existence. He still acts on a professional level with his female coworkers. He doesn't become friends because that's inviting more, but he still acknowledges their existence and works with them professionally. JD doesn't. He ignores them. It probably would have been better for Kim to keep that ring on. I get this as a plot device to wedge another character into the show, but JD still screwed the pooch by telling this woman he would never feel any emotional attachment to her whatsoever while she's popping out his kid. He could have done that a little better. Off to a terrific start being a good dad, dumbass. But it makes sense. JD associates dysfunction with fatherhood anyway. All throughout the series, JD follows around Dr. Cox, constantly calling Perry his mentor, even outright comparing him to a father figure. Which wouldn't be creepy, except that JD already has a dad. Yeah, he has a dad. Surprising considering how he acts, but JD gives the impression that his dad wasn't worth a shit. But when you see JD's dad in flashbacks, he seems like a normal guy. The only thing is that his parents got divorced fairly early on, being raised primarily by their mother. Now, his mother only shows up once in flashback and is mentioned on again, off again when Dan, JD's brother, shows up. And it doesn't paint her in a good light.
I love you, honey. You're the smartest, handsomest, sweetest boy in the whole world. And no matter how hard you look, you will never find a woman who will love you as much as I do.
Kind of explains JD's attitude toward the ladies, huh? It's not the dad, it's the mama who did it. But yet you got JD bad-mouthing his dad like he ran over his pet or something like that, or he ran off, but no. The dude didn't disappear. He showed up for his birthdays and stayed in his life as best as he possibly could. He was an office supply salesman that had to pay alimony and child support. The man didn't get much free time. JD was getting support from his dad and his mom. Dan admits to Dr. Cox that their parents knew JD would make something of himself one day and gave all the support they possibly could. And Dan even says that their parents favored him to be something worthwhile someday. And that's gotta hurt from Dan's point of view. JD's dad even shows up early on in the series to see JD in his new apartment and spend some time with him. Yeah, you could say it was just as a layover so he can get to his next destination, but he spent time with JD. But because his dad doesn't live up to his expectation, JD looks down on him.
God, I'd like to take a run at her. Would you look at that rack?
Dad, please.
I'm sorry, Johnny. I'm just a man. And you know what they say about men?
They love the boobies.
That is correct, Christopher. You guys have a policy on farting?
Oh, let her rip.
Fire in the hole.
Oh my God, Dad.
What do you expect from the man? He's been single for a long time. Emphasis on man. Farting and commenting on big jokes is part of the job. I'm sure you'd do the same.
Anyway, I know what you're thinking.
Your butt looks like two Pringles hugging.
Eat a bowl of fuck, you shit stain. But of all the people JD picks to be his stand-in father figure, he picks the arrogant, chronic alcoholic with the bedside manner of a chainsaw.
I'm supposed to be Dr. Give a Crap, but you want to know the God's honest truth? And this is a fact. You are what you eat, and you clearly went out and devoured a big fat guy, didn't you?
You figured this man would be a loner, but his old lady, Jordan, is just as bad.
Excuse me, Sally Sensitive. I don't remember asking you anything. Your mom's aware that she'll eventually have to stop the breastfeeding, right?
Under the rib, under the rib.
I'm not going to see that baby either. Are you going to tattle on me? Are ya? Are ya? I'm frightened.
Sometimes people are just made for each other. Dr. Cox and JD's quips back and forth are funny, but what bothers me is the sheer obsession JD has with this man. It's downright unhealthy. Dr. Cox is framed as the mentor who teaches JD the things that med school won't teach him, and I understand that working relationships have a tendency to bleed into real life. Colleagues will go out drinking and spend time outside of work. That's life. But JD takes it too damn far. The best example I can think of is when Perry's second kid is born. JD's in the hospital room with Jordan, convincing Jordan to make him the godfather and name the kid Jennifer Dillon, so Perry's kid would be JD forever. All this is going down while Cox is with everyone else, toasting to the life of a friend and colleague who had passed away that day. I'm just at a loss for words. What kind of piece of shit takes an opportunity to etch himself in this man's life like that while he's mourning a close friend? He didn't wave bye. The woman died that day in their hospital and he's mourning her, and you do that shit? I haven't even mentioned how JD treats his own damn brother. Saying stupid shit like he's ashamed of him for being a bartender. What's your problem with bartender? Dad didn't go to medical school like you did, asshole. He picked a job that was best for him, and you got a problem with it? Shove it up your ass. And JD even throws a fit when Dan and Elliot hook up. One time after JD did that. What's it to you, numbnuts? You didn't want her, remember? The biggest fuck up he did with his brother is the last appearance of Dan in the show. Dan shows up at the hospital, finally caving in and getting a different job so JD wouldn't bitch at him all the time, making even more money by buying houses and flipping them, which is pretty cool. Now, at this point in JD's life, he isn't going through a good time because JD is what I call a fuck up. So what does he do?
You're supposed to be the loser, not me.
That car was a gift from Dan so JD didn't have to ride his stupid little moped to go see his bastard son. And he does that. He does apologize, but after that, who would listen? Who would care? I mean, it was his fault that Dan went and got a different job in the first place, but he just goes and makes a complete ass of himself. In season 8, they clean up JD and make him a tad bit more likable, getting him back together with Elliot and not having him listen to that voice inside of his head and actually be a decent human being. That is until he visits Kim, who's got a new boyfriend. The same guy that used to date Elliot, now on track to marry Kim and be a stepdad to JD's offspring. This is JD's response.
I think I'm gonna move here.
It's supposedly to be a better dad. No, it probably is. With JD's track record, it's probably to get back in with Kim, get her to dump Sean, so the only father figure is JD. It makes sense. With everything that JD's done to this point, I'd believe that JD would on purposely break these two up so JD would be the only father figure in his kid's life. Hell, Sean even picks up on this after JD makes his grand announcement that he's going to move there.
Great.
He's a psychopath. This dude does not care about anybody's emotions. Even with all the stuff that I've complained about, I do like this show. The other characters make it worthwhile. Even the side characters like Ted, Doug, can be hilarious. Now, JD as a doctor seems like a good guy, always going on a limb for his patients and going the extra mile. But just as a regular dude, this man is an insufferable jackass at the best of times and a narcissistic sociopath at the worst of times. His friends like him because they are written to like this guy. Hell, in season 5, he accidentally kisses Carla because they're both drunk. Carla admits it to Turk, and Turk doesn't punch him. He's pissed and wants to be away from the two because he doesn't know who to blame. JD, being a jackass, doesn't man up and say, "You should be mad at me." No. He tries to throw Carla under the bus.
Dude, she was pouring drinks into me, and she knows I put out when I'm drunk.
And they're still friends after this. Why? In the real world, this man would have been smacked so many times it could be used as a national sport. John Dorian is a miserable puke, and he needs to go. Send in the Gatornator.
John Michael Dorian. So you're terminated.
Nice shot! Well, I'm done griping, y'all.
What about me?
Well, what about you?
Don't be funny, Grouch. Change my voice back.
All right, Nigel. I'll change your voice back before you try to sell some shit that nobody needs.
Oh, that reminds me. We have just launched a Patreon page for the channel. Currently, there is not much to see at the moment. However, the current available tier gives patrons a first look at upcoming videos and voting power on future projects. If you wish to help support the channel further, all is available in the link below.
Are you saying my show is garbage?
No, of course not.
Uh-huh.
What could be worse than... Oh shit, this is worse.
That's what you get. Well, anyway, I'm Jeff, the Bayou Grouch. Y'all take care.
You slimy, gutless, brainless, no good